So the first lesson that an IIM or any B school or any such environment teaches you is humility, really, apart from handling the pressure, of course. Then you're prepared for life. And increasingly, you will find that the younger generation of women today are very ambitious. So they really don't want to be the side story, the side plot. They want to be the main story, right? And so I think organizations should stop making these assumptions. They should tell women that these are the opportunities. Now you take your pick. Sport is so real and so positive that everybody can learn something from sport. So wherever we go, we tell parents, we tell people we meet, your children must at least play a sport, and ideally a team sport, because that really builds character and gets you ready for life. Because leadership takes something else. You need to be inspiring. You can't be self-absorbed or the master of your own game. As a leader, you need to carry people with you, and definitely as an entrepreneur, you need to sell your vision to the people who work with you. So that is definitely something else that I would say about entrepreneurs.
Hi, welcome to the Mohua show. My name is Mohua Chinappa and I am an author, entrepreneur and ex-housewife. This podcast is about everything from business to technology to arts to lifestyle, but done and spoken ईमानदारी से.
And today's podcast, we have with us Anita Bhogle, a successful businesswoman, author, and a motivational speaker, an alumna of IIT Bombay and IIM Ahmedabad. Okay, I have to really take a gulp there. Wow. She started her career in advertising, becoming the director of account planning and research at FCB Ulka. She later co-founded Pro Search Consultants, a sports-based consultancy with her husband, Harsha Bhogle. Together, they run The Winning Way, a workshop that draws management lessons from sports, which we want Anita to really throw light on. Anita has also founded BizPundits, India's first digital learning library for managers, which got sold to an edtech company. As an author, she has co-written The Winning Way with Harsha and penned Equal Yet Different Career Catalyst for the Professional Woman, a bestseller that offers an India-centric approach for professional women to achieve success in their careers, which is very layered, Anita. So we'll have to get down to the bottom of this. Anita's work spans various fields, reflecting her multifaceted persona and commitment to excellence. So, welcome, Anita, in today's episode. And we are dying to know a little bit about this IIT Bombay, IIM Ahmedabad. And oh my God, you must have been a very, very studious child.
Pleasure to be on your show, Mohua. Yes, you are right. I was quite a nerd to start off with. And, life takes you to strange places. So now I've done a 180-degree turn over the years and actually talk about soft skills.
Oh, wow. That is extremely interesting. So, soft skills after being a complete nerd, there is a backward journey there that I
Yes,
can hear.
the
So, tell me.
completely quantitative kind of a person. So I went to IIT, like you said, to do a post-graduation in statistics. So, I chose mathematics over medicine or engineering. And so I did a post-graduation there, and then I went on to IIM Ahmedabad. So it's been quite a journey.
So in Delhi, my father used to make me pass by the IIT, campus and tell me that this is the institute that you need to go in. And I couldn't tell him that in my report I had got 19 and I had made that into 99. Like a Bengali parent, he said, "Where is that 1 mark?" So you would have been somebody I would have really looked up to, if I'd met you years back.
I would cry over that single mark that was lost, and my parents would say, "It's okay."
Yeah, my parents said, no, 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 why that single mark gone? And I couldn't tell them how many marks is gone in that. Tell me a
Yeah.
little bit about your time in IIT and in IIM. I hear so much of these really crazy stories now coming out from IIT that it's almost frightening, the kind of, rote learning, the kind of rigor that goes into the university. Would you like to share a little bit about your time there?
Sure. So like I told you, I didn't go for 5 years to do engineering. I did a post graduation. So I was there only for 2 years. So I topped the entrance, but To be honest, it didn't really do that much for my CV. I mean, when I look back, there was, of course, pressure, but the pressure was essentially on me because I had not done the final year of mathematics. I had done statistics, and the first year was compulsory mathematics, and so the pressure was there. That was okay, but what IT really prepared me for was for my future life to live on my own. My father was in the police, and we led a very sheltered kind of a life. We were only two sisters, and so we had, did travel by train and lived in a government colony, and so those kind of things. So fairly protected, fairly sheltered life, and this prepared me for life. So that was one of the things. So when I went to IIM Ahmedabad, that bit was taken care of because the pressure there was a lot more. But and including being on your own and not being with family, which a lot of people who hadn't been to hostels before had to go through. But that bit was done for me, so I was okay with that. The second thing in IIT was that, I met a mentor, Professor Subhash Babu, because, I did my project with mechanical engineering, not the maths department where I studied. And he was a very interesting man. He was a mentor, and I often talk about him because, nobody from my hostel or my department had appeared for the cat. Whereas, it was so surprising. Whereas, like, the rest of the engineering students, the men, were, lots of them were appearing for the exam. And I was ignorant, an ignorant fool. But Professor Babu said to me, why don't you apply for the CAT? And there was no way of going for any kind of coaching class or anything like that. So I just prepared based on a borrowed, book, and he helped me fill the form and things like that. So he really mentored me and gave me the confidence. He kind of prepared me right through with the forms and for the interview and things like that. And he's the only reason I managed to make it to Ahmedabad. Otherwise, I was such an ignorant fool.
My God, nobody would believe that, Anita. I'm as it is stumped talking to you because I'm constantly remembering my marks in mathematics. So please pardon me if I'm going to say anything
It's
that's.
not about ability, Mohua. It is just that in my generation, you didn't really go and talk to boys. You were kind of inhibited, and in those days, of course, there was no internet and things like that. So the source of information was really other people around you. And so, if you were not networked, if you were not into it, you were quite out of the system. So when people ask me, what would you tell your 25-year-old self? I would say, be less inhibited. So that was a big learning for me. And especially when I went to IIM, which again was a different story. You go there, everybody goes there, being a topper from your college or your course. You think you're the cat. And then you are exposed to so many subjects that you know nothing about because you're really basically trained to, work on your own subject. And everybody's an expert over there, and you realize, you don't really know anything. So the first lesson that IIM or any B school or any such environment teaches you is humility. Apart from handling the pressure, of course, then you're prepared for life.
Wow, amazing, amazing, Anita. So, your journey into advertising, how did it shape your career and led you to become the director of FCB Ulka and advertising? I know I've been in advertising myself. The time that we come from, it used to be a very, very casual advertising culture.
Yeah.
And, being from IIT, IIM, how did you kind of, take on to this entire role, get into the entire, let's say the nooks and the crannies of those days of advertising?
Yeah, so this was like 40 years ago, and many of the job opportunities, which to start off with were few, uh, but not very encouraging for women. So I tried to do some interviews for marketing and things like that. And while everything went well, they kind of suggested that when to go into market research or when to go get into advertising and things like that. So there was an ad in Business World, and that had something about being an account planner. And so that has to deal with strategy and research and things like
Media
that. So
buying.
the creative, yeah, it's not on the creative side. And that looked right because, they need people with number skills and with research, capabilities and things like that. So that's how I kind of went into advertising. Apart from the fact that, when I went for an interview to contract advertising, which was my first job, the man who interviewed me, Deepak Raja, he was also from Ahmedabad, and he promised to teach me the sitar, and that really kind of swung it. Deepak
So
himself
did you
went
learn?
on to become, yes, and Deepak himself went on to become is a very noted musicologist. But I somehow didn't take up his offer, thinking, oh, there's lots of time, and then life happened, children happened, career happened, and the sitar never happened. But I do play the keyboard. I've been playing for 15 years.
I
But to
learned
come,
the sitar as a
yeah,
child.
you also have an advertising background, right? Yeah.
Advertising and sitar. I had also learned the sitar as a child, and then unfortunately, I gave it up. And today, my fingers really hurt if I have to do the riyaz. So, how much ever I try, and there are days when you suddenly wake up and you say that you want to get back to your
Get
roots. To
back. It's a beautiful instrument, and at this stage in our lives, we need to do things for ourselves, isn't it?
absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely.
But
So,
those days
you
were
had a
great in advertising. It was
yes,
a great time to be in advertising. Some of the greatest minds, the best minds went
yes,
into advertising. There wasn't such
yes,
a big difference between, advertising and other sectors, which it is sadly now. So it was a great time to be in advertising. There was a buzz, the young energy was all there. I got a chance to work on great brands, brand launches. The Tatas introduced their first car, the passenger car. Till then, they were like telco, and I was part of that Indica launch. So lots of good memories of
yes,
advertising. That was also the time when India was coming into its own, and previously, I don't know whether you remember and whether you were involved in the process. All the thinking was from the West. And that was the time when people started thinking Indian and in Indian languages. So it was a great time generally. Advertising was fun.
yes. I think you and me can meet up and have a long, drawn conversation on that,
Absolutely.
because, yeah, I have my best memories also of the advertising agencies, having worked with really great men, and women. I've worked with Ram Ray, and, he was a
Okay.
brilliant mind, yeah, in
Yes.
Kolkata. And it was an office that you didn't want to come back to at home. You were at home in office,
No, I did. I did. I had my kids early, and so I wanted to come home.
I didn't have
But
children that time.
yeah, but the great thing was that there was a lot of exposure because I was in account planning.
Yeah,
A lot of
yeah,
exposure to different sectors, and that kind of helped in later life.
yeah. Absolutely. So let's just talk a little bit about the fact that you have a very diverse and impactful career, from setting up pro search consultants, with Harsha, to running a
No, he joined me.
motivational.
He
He's
joined me.
joined you.
The facts.
Lovely.
He joined me.
So Harsha has joined your company in and running this motivational workshop called the Winning Way. Could you share some of the challenges and the successes, that you've experienced in all these ventures of yours?
Sure. So, I was really, when I left advertising, it was not because I was not enjoying myself. It was just that I couldn't travel. And we had 7 offices. I was already head of a department. And so it became embarrassing for me. And my kids were not growing up in a hurry, obviously. And Harsha was traveling. So, so that's why, and advertising, as you know, is like a people's business, so long hours and things like that. So I said, let's be on my own. And, I kind of did some market research and things like that. But then we had an idea. Um, in the West, sports people used to talk about winning and talk about their stories, how I climbed Everest or how I, ran the marathon. And, that had just started happening. And we had heard about it. So we said, why don't we put our skills together and do this for managers? And that's how, it was the winning way is at the intersection of sport and management. So it's about what people in management can learn about sport. Because
We're going to
obviously,
come to that. Yeah,
yeah,
We're
Yeah,
also
so
going to come to that in a very,
genre that we kind of started,
yeah.
and it still runs. I just stepped back because now I speak around my other book, but I used to do all the content and things like that, and we used to present as a pair, and it's still running. So it's probably India's longest running motivational series. We wrote a book around it, and things like that, and it was a great experience. And personally, I learned a lot because I was not. I mean, I was at best a fringe follower of sport. I did play a bit of badminton and table tennis when I was young, but not really at any level or anything like that. So I got to learn a lot. And I learned a lot about creating content, which I still feel, when people say you've written 2 books, I say, no, I just create content. I'm not a author really. So I learned to speak a bit, I learned to write a bit and things like that. So that's how.
Too humble, Anita, not allowed.
No.
Too humble, too humble. No, 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 no. We need to know about this author journey of yours, which is absolutely stupendous because you have resonated with all your readers and a very wide audience. Why don't you tell me a little bit about how your journey has shaped you professionally, and personally as an author?
Yeah, so the winning way really shaped me in many ways. And like I said, personally also, I learned a lot. So I really learned about, how to create content, what works with people and things like that. But having said that, the winning way was a live. There were live sessions, and Harsha was traveling so much, and so I couldn't really scale it. The word, people had started working on startups and things like that, and then I said, how do you scale this? And couldn't do it really because it was live. And so I started this library called BizPundits, where I used to interview industry leaders and create these little nuggets of knowledge. So I interviewed lots of people from Narayan Murthy to Anand Mahindra, and a lot of people, experts. So I built probably what was India's biggest library. And then I sold it to an edtech platform just before the pandemic. So that was something else that I did to kind of, add on to my experience. And then, of course, the, equal yet different happened. And that was like straight from the heart because it was really about, we see enough women now. If you go to any, business complex or business park, as they are now called, you'll see enough women over there. Even in colleges, you find about 25-30% women. We don't have enough women leaders. So that was really what the book was about. And the seeds of that was sown back in the winning way, because I used to think, I mean, when we started it, we've run it for over 20 years. When we started, very few women, both in the audience and in sport. And the Sainas and the Sanyas and everybody came later. And then the cricket women, everybody came later. So as
How
there
amazing.
were more and more women in the audience, there were more and more women in sport as well. And then I started thinking, saying, women need something else to succeed or something more to succeed. And that's how the whole thought process started. And I wrote Equally and Different. And I'm very happy to say that it's been received really well. And like you said before, I'm happiest when people say it's relevant and it's relatable and it's authentic. Because in both the books, we've not really written anything that we don't believe in. So I have not written in Equally and Different, or we haven't written in The Winning Way, anything that we don't believe in.
Oh, that totally comes through, Anita. You're absolutely authentic to the core. I can just make out, and I'm completely in awe. I mean, even before we've gone into the mid part of the conversation, I would really like you to tell me a little bit about what are the kind of challenges that management, students face in today's times, given the kind of competitive environment, and then so many people are struggling to get jobs. So, how do students, can evolve better? For the future. Would you just share a few thoughts there?
Sure. It's not only students, actually, even the institutes face a challenge. So while it's a great idea to have many institutes, there are, of course, the private institutes, and there is an IIM in every state now. I was
Yes.
on the board of IIM Jammu, and so I've seen it at close quarters. um, because there are so many. It's a challenge getting good faculty, good students, and things like that. So yeah, growth is good, but there are a few challenges over there. Also, I think there's so much change around us. Initially, we used to talk about businesses that are built to last. Now I think most businesses are being built for valuation. So things have changed. Most students actually want to join startups and things like that. So yeah, students also see B schools as a placement agency, whereas actually you should, I mean,
Yeah.
placement is important. It's the final thing. But then I think people should see it more as a learning experience. That's not always happening.
As a successful woman in business, what are your thoughts on the challenges that professional women face in India and, of course, globally? And how do you think this can be addressed? It is very, very layered. It's multi-layered, right?
Yeah,
Because there is pay gap, there is and lack of understanding about lactating women. There's a lack of understanding about how a woman's body is completely challenged after childbirth. And I think one part of the world is given 2 months or 2 years off, if I'm not mistaken, post pregnancy, which is unimaginable in India. Medically, they say that it takes you about 2 years for your entire hormones to kind of come together, which I did not know during my times. And, before the stitches have also dried up, you're wanting to like really become part and parcel of what your mother or your mother-in-law or your grandmother thinks the right way to be. So, I mean, like I said, it's multi-layered and I can go on and on. Why don't you tell me what would be the challenges that you think can be tackled that are very immediate?
sure. So my research really that led to my book is about professionally qualified women, because somewhere I had to draw the boundaries. I mean, there are some challenges which are there for all women, right? And there are some challenges that are there for professional women. So let me just quickly talk to you about two challenges that are there, because I think maternity, motherhood, and things like that, everybody knows about. They have been discussed to death. So let me just talk about two challenges that I feel can be addressed and that are not really talked about that much. So the first thing is the unconscious bias that is there in the system. Because even when qualified women able, in terms of the skill that they bring to the table, absolutely all there 100%. And yet, you find organizations, and when I say organizations, I'm just saying it's a collective mindset, that a new mother, um, won't be able to, or somebody with young children is not really up to facing challenges. So they won't be able to take pressure, or that they are not ambitious, because a woman's attention is, her focus is on home, which is not neither universally true. Um, and increasingly, you'll find that the younger generation of women today are very ambitious. So they really don't want to be the side story, the side plot. They want to be the main story, right? So they have worked out their support systems and whatever it is, they know exactly what they're getting into. Uh, and so I think organizations should stop making these assumptions. They should tell women that these are the opportunities. Now you take your pick. And there would be women who have constraints, that who have responsibilities, who don't have a great, or who seek a better work-life balance, and they might go for softer assignments. But there are women who actually are up to the challenge, or are at a stage in life where they can afford to take on these challenges. So I think organizations should stop making these kind of assumptions. And the funny thing is, I call it corporate kindness, because sometimes people, bosses, organizations, HR people, honestly believe that they're trying to be nice to the woman. Let us not give her this. Let us not give her that. Let us send her home early and things like that, which is nice in the short term, but eventually makes these women very weak candidates when it comes to leadership positions. So that's one thing. Yeah. So this thing about unconscious bias, and unconscious bias is not only at the workplace, it's at home as well, because we are part of a patriarchy. And when I say we, it means men, women, everybody. All of us have the
Absolutely.
patriarchal mindset. Women also
Absolutely.
believe that it's their responsibility, and society and other families also believe that, taking care of the home and the children is exclusively the domain of the woman. And that leaves a professional woman with very little time to invest in herself. And you know how today's careers are. They are very rewarding and remunerative, but they're also very demanding. And so you need to be on top of your game. You need to invest in yourself. And that is not happening. Again, leaving them with as weak candidates in leadership. So these are the kind of things one has to look at. And somewhere, Mohua, I strongly feel that all, the things that people are doing, having pressures, having flexi jobs, everything in a way, all these things at least reinforce the fact that it's the woman's responsibility. Well, that is important. You are not going to change the world in a hurry. You're not going to do it. But mindsets also need to be worked on. I think men
Yeah.
need
So,
to realize that they
yeah.
need to contribute a lot more to the home, and that priority needs to be given to the woman's career as well.
So I think you know about this, that in Korea there's a huge revolution that's happening of women not wanting to date, not want to marry, and they don't want to become mothers.
And you see
And
it here.
it is,
You see it here. More and more people don't want to marry, don't want to have children.
yes, absolutely. So, could you share a little bit about the principles of sportsmanship, like facing challenges, and resourcefulness that apply to entrepreneurship? You've done so much. So, what are those qualities that, you could tell us about, Anita?
Sport is so real and so positive that everybody can learn something from sport. So wherever we go, we tell parents, we tell, people we meet, your children must at least play a sport, and ideally a team sport, because that really builds character and gets you ready for life. But since you asked about entrepreneurs, yeah, I had written an article on, what entrepreneurs can learn from sport. So let me take you through three, four things. In the winning way, we talk about ability and attitude. Because in sport, you will find that when youngsters come to play sport, everybody talks about their skill, their ability, and people will say, "Ha, this guy is going to do really well," or "This woman is going to go a long way." That's based on ability. But not all these people do that well. You might start off as if like you have a promising career, but you don't get that far. And on the other hand, you have other people who don't seem to be that talented, but do really well. And the difference is really in attitude. And by attitude, I mean, the work ethic, the discipline, the hard work, all these kind of things. How good you are as a team player, all these things would go into attitude. Now, entrepreneurs also, a lot of times, I mean, the starting point is an idea or a product, yeah, or a product idea. So that is okay. That's the ability part. If they don't have the attitude, then they are not going to go that far. And so that again, remains a truth for entrepreneurs, that a product or an idea is not enough. You need to have the right kind of attitude. The other thing which I commonly see among entrepreneurs, and you're seeing it all over these days, that the founder runs into trouble after a while. And that's because the founder always wants to be the leader. Well, that is something that we assume. But you will see in sport that the best player doesn't always make the best captain. And we've seen great players who've not made great captains. And there's a big controversy on all these because we just assume, that would happen. So that is, I think, the second truth, because leadership takes something else. You need to be inspiring. You can't be self-absorbed, or the master of your own game. As a leader, you need to, carry people with you. And definitely as an entrepreneur, you need to, sell your vision to the people who work with you. So that is definitely something else that I would say about entrepreneurs. Uh, the third thing, which again, I'm saying based on what is happening currently, and there are so many startups, but not all of them are able to scale very well. And you will see that in sport. When you have to grow and go to the next level, your game needs to change. Even your coach needs to change, because what is good at one level need not be good for the next level. And so I think, that is also a learning that entrepreneurs can take from sport.
That's a very, very relevant thing that you've said, Anita, that, I think I've never looked at it like that, to scale up, you definitely need new coaches at each juncture of your life. Also, if you want to progress and you want to evolve. So tell me a little bit about the entrepreneurs that can learn from the experience and stories of cricket and other sports, to navigate in their entrepreneurial journey. Maybe two or three qualities that you can say. Of course, you spoke about hard work, you spoke about commitment. What is
Absolutely.
that one more quality that you would say?
Humility, again, because sometimes what happens is, um, entrepreneurs come on the back of success in another area. But as they say in sport, every innings starts from zero. So you got to forget what you were, and you got to learn new things. You could have been great in one sector, and that doesn't mean that, you will be equally successful. Of course, people do carry learnings from one to the other, but there are a lot more new things to learn. So definitely, you and the other saying in sport is, you are only as good as your last innings. So you got to be humble, and you got to learn, and learning is the future, really. Yeah.
Yeah. So, Anita, being Mrs. Harsha Bhogle, what are the kind of challenges and what are the kind of perks that come along with being a celebrity's, such a known face person as your husband?
Well, the perks are certainly there, because I think it opens a lot more doors, and especially for people like us who don't have such common family name, people immediately ask you whether you are related and things like that, and so that many more opportunities. But having said that, the challenges are also there, and I have definitely faced challenges, because Harsha really started traveling after both my children were born, and so I've had to be a kind of single parent, for a very, very long time. And then career was also compromised. A lot of the moves that I've talked about now have come out of necessity and a restlessness to do something in the face of lots of constraints, like, can't travel, can't be away for so long, have to look after the children, you know. So those kind of things. And when I say travel, it's like for 2-3 months uh, in a row. So I've talked about it in the book, because these days couples talk about syncing their calendars and things like that. I could never do that. His calendar synced to Indian cricket. So that was definitely a big challenge. So while the perks are many, the challenges are also there, because immediately, and you can't really be your own person in a way, because everybody says, "Oh, she's Harsha's wife." So whatever you might have done, the relationship kind of overshadows all your own work. So luckily, I married a classmate. I didn't marry a celebrity, so we're okay.
How have you balanced your professional life and being a parent? Any tips, for working parents? Because they all look up to you, Anita.
No,
So please
and so
share.
yeah, because of the book, also a lot of people ask all these things. When much of it is covered in the book, but yeah, you need a great support system. And personally, I didn't have that, but I'm just telling you as a tip, for working parents. I think unless you have a great support system, whether it's family or whether it's paid help or any other kind of, support, you can't be peaceful at work. So it's a stepping stone for a great career. So that is something most certainly one would, you know, suggest. The second thing is about a couple being a team, and a team in the real sense. Because a lot of times men say, "Oh, I'm very good at, I'm very proud of what my wife does. I'm very supportive, and I'm totally with her," and things like that. But they don't really contribute. You have women who say that when they go on a tour, even a short tour, they cross the threshold, and the whole household, whether it's help or husband or children, full of complaints. This didn't happen, that didn't happen. That's not good enough. When you hold charge, you should be able to manage like the wives manage when the husbands travel. So that is really being a team player, and that is being a real partner. And I think priority for both the careers, because that is, I think, where people slip up. When the husband goes ahead in his career, has a higher salary, all the moves are centered around his career. I think women need to be given a chance to catch up somewhere, especially if they fall behind because of maternity leave and things like that. Then it's not fair, right? So I would say those are the kind of things. And my personal tip is to be efficient. I've always been very efficient with my time. Even now, I have slots where I say, okay, I have the slot, I will do this. I will, go to the parlor, I will meet friends, I will read, I will watch a movie, kind of a thing. Because unless you're efficient with time, and unless you give 100% to work when you are working, it's not going to happen. There's just too many things happening in life. So,
Yeah, it's about prioritizing it. So,
yeah.
one of your quotes says, success has to be repeatable because that's what makes you a champion. Can you elaborate a little bit on this?
That's from the winning way. Yeah. So what happens is, normally when you fail, there is a post-mortem. When there is success, you just go out and celebrate. But um, when you pause and think about success, why did I do so well? And you will find that there could be a pattern. I do well when I have slept well. I do well when I'm prepared. I do well when I'm whatever. And similarly for the team or the organization as well. There are things that go right, and there could be a template over there. And unless that happens, a one-off success, people will say, is a fluke. Tukka lag gaya. You don't want that, right? A real champion is somebody who wins and then wins again and again. That is what a real champion is. And so you need it to be repeatable. So if you just take a pause and think about what helped you win, then maybe you'll figure out why you're winning.
What are your future plans and what are the new books or projects that, we can all look forward to from you, Anita?
Actually, I'm still doing corporate speaking around the book. So I haven't really thought about what I want to do. It has to come from within, right? Something has to at least equal a different came up from within. And so let me see. Currently, I'm focusing on things that I couldn't do in my career. And so, meaning, because of the career and because of work and things like that. So I'm focusing more on yoga and music. And I find that very interesting.
Lovely. How amazing is that? So tell me now, quickly, just maybe one answers. Who's your favorite cricketer?
Favorite cricketer? Rahul Dravid. I think he's a thinking cricketer, and I think he's a very interesting brand.
Favorite hobby?
Currently, music.
Travel destination?
Mm, London. London in summer. We just love to walk.
Favorite cuisine?
Increasingly, because of age, I think it's the homemade khana.
I totally resonate with you on that one. I too love homemade khana. And thank you so much for being on today's podcast, Anita. It was an absolute honor and a pleasure to talk to you. People like us are all waiting for more gems from you. Please keep writing and please keep teaching us the winning ways. And that's what we all look up to you for. Thank you so much for being on today's podcast.
Thank you for having me. It was an absolute pleasure talking to you.
To you, our dearest listeners, you can find us on your favorite streaming services, Spotify, Amazon Music, Apple Podcast, and of course on all other major streaming services. With loads of love, we are The Mohua Show, where we talk ईमानदारी से.